evening, everyone. It's Wednesday and time for another edition of Live Well Wednesday. Angel here. Thank you all for tuning in. We are, of course, on a very important Wednesday, Inauguration Day. Lots of barriers broken today, so super excited wearing my red, white, and blue bracelet to commemorate this day and the future, hopefully with lots of positivity for the U.S. So once again, Live Well Wednesday. Thanks everyone for joining. Tonight I am your special guest because tonight we're going to talk about autoimmune disease. And ironically, it seems like everyone has one nowadays. And I think it's so important to talk about it that I wanted to, give everyone a chance to come on, give some opinions, talk about it, and just kind of be real and raw. And that's what Live Well Wednesday is about. And I want to share that with you. Before we get started, last week we had Samantha Parker on, and she talked about yoga and chronic pain. And for those of you who tuned in and shared the post and liked it, you were entered into a drawing to receive her free book, Yoga for Chronic Pain, WTF, right here. And I have all the names in this lovely red solo cup. So I'm going to do the drawing to see who's going to win the book. Hopefully one of you are watching right now and you're in this cup. So super excited to see who's going to win that. I will reach out to you to get your information so that we can send this book to you. So I will go ahead and dig into my little red solo cup, which is ironic. As you can see, everybody's names on here. See who's going to win. And our winner is my friend from high school, Irvin Hawkins. And he was the first one to comment last night. So he's going to win a Yoga for Chronic Pain WTF. I know he's into this kind of stuff. I'm not sure if it's going to be for him or his wife, but super excited to be able to get this book over to Irvin. If you're watching, congrats. You got this awesome book. So we'll go ahead and kind of just jump right into autoimmune disease, what it is. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about my story, and then hopefully some people will chime in and, kind of talk about their journeys or ask questions. But overall, I just want to educate, let people know that they're not alone, and just give some tips and tricks that I've dealt with so far in my journey, and maybe that will resonate with you, and then, have a conversation. Once again, as always, my door is open to talk to you and just communicate, let you know how I'm feeling, let you know what I've done, and just open communications, because one thing I've learned is if you have an autoimmune disease and you hide it, it's going to really hurt you. And it is so important to just talk about it. And to kind of start off, autoimmune disease basically is when your immune system attacks itself. And it's not fun. There's so many different types of autoimmune disease. I have literally a list up here that I wrote because there are so many. And just off the top of my head, I have lupus, IBS, arthritis, type 1 diabetes, Graves' disease, Hashimoto's, psoriasis, MS. The list can go on, and I'm sure I've missed a lot of them, but there is usually groups of autoimmune diseases. So if you have one, more likely you have two, as well as this is hereditary. I had the trifecta. My mother, Raynaud's, yes. I had that actually up there. Thank you for reminding me, Mindy. Ironically, I want to touch base with you because there are healing stones for that. So there's a lot of stuff with autoimmunity. But I was going to say I had the trifecta of autoimmune because my mom had it, my aunt had it, my great-grandfather had it, my father's daughter, my stepsister had it. So I had it from every side. So it was just a matter of time before it hit me. So with that being said, I'll kind of tell you a little bit about my story and my journey, and then we'll talk about doctors, medication, education, and just some other things I've learned along the way. I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism. I'd say I was 19, maybe 20. I had been really, really tired in high school, and my parents didn't know what was going on with me, and they had all kinds of tests for depression and things like that, but they never could figure it out. I got pregnant, and then after I had my son, I think the first month, they're like, wow, you're super tired, and it's not postpartum. Let's test your thyroid levels. I'm like, okay. So had my thyroid levels tested, and the doctor was said, wow, you should be like asleep right now. Your levels are so high. And this is just around the time that my mother learned she had thyroid disease, and my aunt had passed away actually from lupus right around the same time. So it was a lot of stuff hitting me all at the same time. So I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism, and then it began, which I say was it was 1929, probably 15 years straight of doctor after doctor, medication after medication. Nobody knew how to treat me. Nobody knew how to help me. I gained weight. I lost weight. I couldn't, I had no energy. My hair was falling out, freezing cold all the time. And being a military spouse, and those of you who know, we jumped from doctor to doctor. And of course, trying to explain to a doctor again that you have thyroid disease, which back, in the late 90s, they had no idea what to do with me. So it was a struggle. And luckily today, there's so much information out there on the internet about thyroid disease and autoimmune disease in totality. So I definitely want you guys to take time and research that. But the thing that I think really stuck with me is probably when I was 30, it was like 35. And another doctor said, let's run a whole gamut of tests on you. Let's look at your antibodies. Let's look at your T3, your T4, all of this. And when he came back with the results, he said, wow, your thyroid disease has now grown into full-blown Hashimoto's, and it's a lot worse than you first thought it was. Says, oh, wonderful. A disease that no one can figure out how to treat me. Now it's gotten even worse, so now you're telling me there goes treatment again. So at 35, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, and I went full on research, doctor after doctor. I interviewed doctors, got rid of doctors, brought in all my lab work for doctors, really took my thyroid journey into my own hands. And if you guys are dealing with any autoimmune diseases, I don't care what it is, you have to take your own health into your own hands. You need to take and interview your doctors. Do the research. I always go with a list of lab work, and the doctors kind of, I think, get mad at me because I seem to know a little bit more about thyroid disease, well, only because I've had it for 30 some years, than they do. But don't feel bad. Tell them, hey, this is the type of labs that you need, and keep track of all of your labs. With thyroid disease, it's T3, T4 antibodies, and every person is different. What makes me feel good might not make the next person. My mother, bless her soul, she takes her Synthroid. It is a very tiny dose, and she's great. Me, no. I have to have bovine hormone through my thyroid, and even with that, it's still not 100% regulated. So it is a struggle. But like I said before, it's very important that you take it into your own hands. You do the research. You become your biggest proponent. And tell your doctor all your symptoms. No matter what they are, you never know when one is going to correlate with an autoimmune disease. Or, anything that you think might be out of the ordinary. It's very surprising how as you work through these things, you'll learn, oh my gosh, that is, a sign of lupus. Or that is a sign of Hashimoto's. Whatever it may be, keep track of everything. Another thing that I wanted to kind of talk about, and I'll show you a really, really good book, and this is for thyroid disease. It's called Root Cause. And Isabella Wentz is a doctor. There is lots of research on autoimmune disease, no matter what it is, that there is a root cause. And you guys have probably heard this a lot. And it's hard to find what your root cause is. I still don't know mine. I think mine stems from a lot of infections that I had when I was younger, and it just caused my immune system to be all out of whack. But there is usually a root cause, and you really need to keep track of that. And like I said, read, educate yourself. The more you know, the better. I kind of touched on it briefly about your medication. So there's different types of medication, as you probably know. There's synthetic, there's actual medication, there's the generic. I cannot take generic medication. Just doesn't work for me. And ever since I moved on, I actually take bovine thyroid, which is actually, thyroid from, I guess it's a pig. And that's closer to me. I guess it's called desiccated thyroid. And that's closer to me, and it works better for me than just a natural synthroid. So just making that change in my life, man, it was like night and day on how I felt after that. So, like I said, everybody's different. And unfortunately, these doctors, I'm sorry, but they have like pharmacies or pharmaceutical companies in their pocket, and they get money for using their drugs. So don't be ashamed, or don't be, feel uncomfortable firing your doctor or speaking up and saying you want a different type of medication, because this is your body and this is how you feel. If they want to dictate how they think you should feel, get another doctor. Another thing that I learned through my research is there's always a specialist for your autoimmune disease, depending on what it is. My Lyme disease, there is a Lyme literate doctor. So it may cost more money, or it may be farther away. But I tell you, going to these specialists who really understand what's going on is really important. When I was diagnosed with thyroid disease, I kept going to the endocrinologist. Oh, you need to go to the endocrinologist. Yes, yes, yes. But all these endocrinologists specialized in diabetes and metabolic things. Not until I researched that there's actually a thyroidologist who their main concern is thyroid disease, that I was like, wow, okay, there actually is something that makes sense to go to a new doctor. Now, like I said before, they're going to be far away. My doctor was really far away, but it is important to see how long they've been practicing. A lot of old school doctors, and Mindy, you kind of mentioned this, thank you for that. A lot of old school doctors are set in their ways, and they're not going to change the way they treat their patients. So look for a new doctor. Do the research. Facebook groups. I have so many thyroid groups. They're so amazing. Whatever autoimmune disease you have, get in there, get with your friends, make new friends, learn about them, and just get that information flowing. I tell you, that is so, so important. It's, back to the root cause. Read about what's going on. Educate yourself. I've had so many thyroid books. It's a little crazy. I have a thyroid healing book as well. These books actually need to go to Lori. I promised her I'd ship them out to her because I've read these front to back a million times. So I want to share the wealth with my thyroid my thyroid books. But support groups, like I had said, are very, very important so that you can talk to other people. Yoga, diet, exercise, getting rid of toxins is very helpful for autoimmune disease as well. I'll tell you a little story. When I was, how old was I? Maybe 15 or 16. My aunt was diagnosed with lupus. And this was back in, 1989, 90, where lupus was extremely foreign. Nobody knew what to do. They pumped her up on prednisone, and they told her she couldn't go out in the sun. She was miserable. The lupus like rampant through her body. It hit her bones. It just was really really bad. And she had no support. There was nobody she could talk to. There wasn't, Facebook groups and things like that. And unfortunately, she became very reclusive, scared, and no one knew how to help her. And, they said, oh, you'll live to be 50 years old. She lived to be 50. I think she was 55 when she passed away. But I look at that and think about all that has changed from then until now. So we have no excuse. You guys out there that are dealing with autoimmune disease and you feel like there's a dead end or you feel like you don't have support, it is out there. Please reach out to me. I can help you find different sites and different groups to belong to, just to talk. I can almost bet if she would have had somebody to talk to that felt the same pain and was dealing with what she was dealing with, she would have had a longer life and it would have been a lot happier because she wouldn't have been alone. So it's saddening for me to know that she had to go through that journey because lupus is not a fun thing. It's not an easy autoimmune disease to deal with. But now a lot of people are living for a very long time. There's lots of research. There's lots of information out there for these types of autoimmune diseases. And I think it's great that finally people are recognizing them, doing the research, and basically, letting us live longer. I'm trying to think, there's a lot of, it's funny because I've learned just recently that a lot of my friends have autoimmune diseases as well. And one of my friends actually wrote to me just a couple days ago and he said, did you know that psoriasis was autoimmune? And I was like, really? Another thing, I didn't even realize that was an autoimmune disease. There are so many out there. I, pray that we find something to give us some help and to make us feel better. But right now, it's just a lot of us being proponents, talking in these groups, being an advocate for yourself, and being our best support system. I had some other people that were supposed to join me tonight, and unfortunately weren't able to have the roundtable discussion like I had wanted, but at least I want to kind of open the communication through my Live Well Wednesday, talk about any type of problems people are having. If you're on here and you have an autoimmune question, just throw it out there. You never know when someone is dealing with something that you have, or if there is a question that you never thought to ask, somebody else asks, and an answer comes, and it's exactly what you needed to hear. So feel free, go ahead and put some questions in the live if you're watching this. I definitely want to open the conversation to talk about autoimmune disease and just be open and honest, because that is so important in how we're going to fight this moving forward. It's not easy. I'm still struggling. I don't think I've ever in my whole adult life had my thyroid levels come back good. They've always been fluctuating up and down. Winter comes, it gets worse. And then this day and that day, and there's a lot of problems that I'm never able to get it right. So if there's things out there that you've done for your autoimmune and things that you've seen other people do that have helped them, shoot me a message in the live chat, and I would love to share it with other people. If something comes, to your mind as you're watching this over again, also shoot me a message. I definitely want to share it. And Hashimoto's is something that was new and foreign to me. I did all the research, and probably I've had maybe a handful of people come up to me and say, I have Hashimoto's too, that I actually knew. So that was like a complete surprise. It's like, hey, there's my friends, these people that, I never knew all this time. They're dealing with the same thing we're doing. So don't be quiet about it, please. I definitely want to kind of keep this open. Thyroid disease. I have friends, I'm trying to think of some of the other things with Graves' disease, lupus. Lupus when I told you about my aunt was so bad back then, but nowadays people are just perfectly fine, living happy lives, and nothing is wrong with them. Melissa, yeah, eczema. That's another thing that, yeah, definitely someone told me it was autoimmune, that I was very surprised, but it makes sense because it's like your skin is attacking the cells. I know that um, there are a lot of people who have been fighting this and feel like they want to give up. And I understand that because some days I'm like, am I ever going to feel good? But it's relative. I don't know when there's a point where you say, this is as good as I'm going to feel. And I think I've gotten to that point. My thyroid levels, normal runs, between 3 and 5 for your TSH. I usually run around 7. If I get to 15, I feel really bad. So at a 7, to me, I'm like, okay, I can live with that. I've never been a 1 or a 2. But then people who have hyperthyroidism, which puts them on the complete opposite end, they can't gain weight and they have, super hype and those issues, can't get above a 3. So there's that piece of it too. Amy, I don't know about the eczema. It being an autoimmune was brand new to me, so I'm not sure if there is some correlation where the eczema has to get to a point where it's considered autoimmune, where like thyroid disease, you have hyper or hypo, and then you have Graves' disease or Hashimoto's when it gets to a higher piece. So that is definitely something, we can definitely research. I'm super curious about it because I didn't know that that was an autoimmune disease at all. So thank you for that comment. I'm trying to think. One thing I would also recommend, that if you have an autoimmune disease and you have kids, because it is hereditary and can be passed down, have them tested for whatever it is, sooner than later. Sometimes, you don't want to know, but if you do know, it's good to kind of get prepared and understand. Both of my kids have been tested for thyroid disease. I'm hoping that it skips a couple generations and they don't have to deal with what I've been dealing with. And the other thing that's interesting is because they say that autoimmune disease runs in 2s and 3s. I have Hashimoto's. I don't at the moment have anything else, but it's kind of like I'm waiting for it. And it's kind of crazy because I'm already setting myself up to have another autoimmune disease. It's just, when is the time going to come? And that's probably not a good way to kind of look at things. So just be careful on the information that you do learn and how you react to it and take it to heart. I'm not doing the best job at that, I will admit. I'm also not doing the best job with my diet. I probably shouldn't be, I should be gluten-free and things like that. But there is, that point where do you draw the line of happiness and just not, giving you taking everything away from you that you love. But I think I will work on that for sure, because when I was on keto full time, I did feel better. So I definitely want to kind of work on that. Trying to think if I have anything else to really kind of touch on here. Basically, educate yourself, talk to people, be open and honest and communicate. I think that is such a healer no matter what you do. Just talk about it. They're not dirty words anymore. Hashimoto's, lupus. I mean, they seem to be so commonplace. So many people have them that there's no reason to be shy or scared. And even psoriasis and eczema, I've known people, hey, their skin just, it is what it is. It's not anything to really worry about. There are beautiful people with autoimmune disease that live among us and we are friends with. And I think the more we talk about it, the more educated and the happier we become with ourselves, because we understand it and we understand that other people are also experiencing it. So I want to leave that with you guys. Please feel free to comment if you see this later. I want to have more autoimmune disease talks because that is so dear and near to my heart. So I may have some specific people come in to talk about, you know, either Hashimoto's or lupus or, Graves' disease, whatever it may be. I may have individual people who are more educated and a lot smarter than I am to come on and talk about those in the upcoming months. So if there's something you want me to touch base on, to do some research, get an expert, shoot me a message, let me know. I'll be happy to, pencil them in. With that being said, our Live Well Wednesdays, a couple updates. I've been trying to migrate from my personal Facebook Live to my Love Across brand and the Live Well page and group. So you may have gotten invites to that. I think once I migrate over, the logarithm will help me touch more people that want to hear the information and who actually signed up to get my lives. So it's going to be a little bit of work in progress in the next couple of weeks, but eventually I'm going to migrate everything over to that. Also super excited, my Love Across website is probably 80% done right now. I'm in the process of going through all of my healing beads and actually explaining what they do. So if you want a particular bracelet made for a certain healing modality, you can actually go to the site and look up the different types of beads and understand how they will help you. I'm completely still open to do special bracelets for anyone, but this just gives people, a idea to peruse the different beads and ask questions. So I'm excited. I think I'm up to close to 50 different healing beads that can be put together for a beautiful bracelet to help heal different things that you're dealing with in your life. The Live Well brand is doing amazing. We're already full up until I've got one more spot in April with a whole bunch of different variety of people coming on. I'm really excited. I've got anywhere from financial health again. We're going to talk about health as far as legal health, that, make sure all your legal life is in a good shape. I have someone talking about regular fitness, social health, like how you portray yourself on social media. That's going to be super excited to watch. And then next week, Michelle Weston is going to be coming on, and she's going to be talking about astrological signs and how you can look at your birth chart and just understand things that make you well from that spiritual standpoint. And I am going to be giving away a free birth chart reading to one of our viewers next week who comment, and share that. So that's awesome. You may have seen some of my posts about some of the information I received from her reading, and also Kevin did a reading, and let me tell you, he said that's the best thing he has ever read. He said it was so perfect and so spot on. So I definitely want to share her information with you next week, and you can be entered to also win a birth chart reading from me for Live Well Wednesday and just tuning in. You can watch these videos again on Facebook. They're on YouTube and also on Spotify. You can now download and listen. If you're a little too busy to sit and watch me just talk all the time, you can listen to me and listen to those people who I bring on as subject matter experts. So once again, thank you everyone for listening to me talk about my autoimmune journey. And I hope this has been beneficial. And I hope that you speak to other people about your journey, learn from other people's journeys, and just give yourself to other people to produce, amazing conversations, meeting friends, just learning new things about people all around this thing that used to be a dirty word as an autoimmune disease, which is no longer. So thank you again. I'll reach out to people who won, and I look forward to talking to you next week with Michelle. Take care, everyone. Bye.